Hi, everybody. It's Jason Major, and I'm reporting on Easter Monday, 2021. And today is another episode of the Biblical Cinematic Universe. And so, shout out to Dallas Jenkins, creator of The Chosen. Hey, Dallas. This video is for you guys and supporting The Chosen. So, for those of you who might not remember or don't know, The Chosen is a streaming service series based on the life of Christ, where they're going to do about 8 episodes a piece each season, and kind of tell this multi-series season version of the life of Christ, but kind of tell it more through the eyes of his disciples and kind of the side stories, and kind of allow you a chance to allow some of these stories to breathe a little bit. And when you get into, and I would have to say that unless you've never read the Bible before and you've never watched a Jesus story again, and even if you haven't, you could start with season 2, episode 1 very easily. So I'm going to only get into mild spoilers for a story that's already based on a book of the New Testament. I got my Gideons here, and this episode basically is kind of very John is the center of it. John, the writer of the Gospel of John. There's some kind of cool tricks they do in terms of showing, in terms of spoiler for the first 2 minutes, where you basically figure out that they do a flash forward to where he's writing the Book of John, and then throughout the episode, there's little hints of scriptures that are from the early chapters of John, and basically this episode focuses following up on the series, the season finale of season 1, that Jesus is in this Samaritan village. So the Samaritans were not the Jewish people; they were kind of this, they're kind of considered outsiders by the Jews, and so Jesus being in this village was a big deal. The fact that he was not Jewish, talking to all these outsiders, essentially, and so that really, like I said, all you really need to know is Jesus is going to a village that is not Jewish, which breaks apart from their traditions. That's all we really need to know. So you could be able to watch this cold turkey without seeing the previous episodes if you wanted to, and they're playing with. Well, they had already done the story, which was in the Book of John, where Jesus meets a woman at the well and talks to the Samaritan woman. That was kind of the season. She's now been talking to everyone in town, and that's kind of the story is that context, and taking a couple little smaller stories from the Bible in there, which I won't spoil. So your main characters in this episode are John, the bull of it, and his brother James, who are the Sons of Thunder. Peter plays a big part, and so does Matthew in terms of kind of the main disciples, as well as Mary Magdalene's in there as well. I would say that there's what makes this episode so good and enjoyable is its creative use of taking these stories which you've known, but by kind of putting them in structuring them in such a way where you kind of have organic conversations and organic relationships as Jesus is moving around town. This version of Jesus is I really like the actor who plays him, Jonathan Romy, and not only that, but there's also jokes that he makes, for example, that you wouldn't traditionally picture in a Jesus movie. I don't want to give any examples of that to spoil it, the fun, but I think that some of these jokes for people like me just come across as like, oh, it helps to bring the character of Jesus and their version of this world into more of our contemporary light. So, as an example, this is a mild spoiler. This is not even a spoiler. Like when they were staying at someone's house, I noticed that they had beds. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Historically, they probably didn't have beds like I'm sitting on now, where they're off the floor. That probably wasn't in the first century. At least with the people that they're hanging around with. But it's a minor thing, and but what I'm saying is that in that sense that there's some little tidbits of dialogue or things that probably, like the idea that Mary Magdalene met him at a tavern or what would we would call a bar, essentially a bar. Probably didn't happen. Probably they didn't have those type of things back in the first century. But these are elements to make them to sort of connect you, the viewer, with these characters in a relatable way, while still being kind of as true as you can and authentic as you can to the biblical story. So what am I saying? I'm saying this is a great first episode. I was really intrigued by the directions they took, because it was one of those episodes where you're going like, because they're going these like, sort of side stories first, and then it leads into the ones you kind of your mind. For those who do know the story, you're kind of going like, okay, well, how does this connect to the story that we do know? Because you're kind of trying to figure out where they're going to go in the chapters and all that. And if you don't know the story, you're going to be able to really enjoy it and really enjoy the organic storytelling that they do in this. And again, another benefit of this episode is it's done in one. And so you can just enjoy it as a great example. Give it an 8 out of 10. Great start, Dallas Jenkins. Looking forward to the rest of season 2. Thank you. For the Biblical Smahanic Universe, this is Jason Major.